If there is one genre that pop culture loves to embrace, it's the post-apocalyptic setting. Just think of American franchises like Mad Max or The Walking Dead. We already know the classic formula all too well. A completely destroyed civilization, people fighting for scraps, and, of course, bullets flying everywhere. But what if we took this same devastated world, banned all firearms, and threw in some insane martial arts instead? The result of this mashup is one of the most brutal universes we've ever seen on screen, Into the Badlands. Basically, the series is a glorious fever dream where the backstabbing politics of Game of Thrones collides with a classic Bruce Lee movie. There is no room for squeaky clean heroes here. We're talking lots of blood, completely unhinged cult leaders, family drama, and fights so absurdly well choreographed that you can almost feel the pain right from your couch. At the end of the day, the lesson here is clear. In a completely lawless land, a sharp blade in the right hands is worth 1,000 times more than any assault rifle. That's why today, we're going to break down Into the Badlands, an incredible storyline where the entire system is settled through absolute beatdowns. In this bizarre futuristic world called the Badlands, technology has vanished, firearms don't exist, and the ones calling the shots are 7 ruthless barons backed by their armies of trained assassins, the Clippers. Sonny is the best of them. He's out patrolling on his motorcycle when he comes across a slaughtered convoy. The trail of destruction leads him straight to a group of nomads. It's 11 armed guys against him, and Sonny handles the situation in about 2 minutes. His reward for wiping the floor with the thugs? A teenager named MK hiding in a box. Sonny takes the kid to the fort of his boss, Baron Quinn. Quinn has that classic cult leader energy, preaching to the new recruits with a preacher's tone and using Sonny as his ultimate poster boy. And it makes sense. Sonny is so lethal he has 404 kills tattooed on his back. Right off the bat, the toxic dynamic of Quinn's family takes shape. His son Ryder is the living definition of someone with chronic daddy issues. He wants to attack a rival baron known as the Widow, but Sonny warns that this would trigger an all-out war. Quinn, of course, listens to his assassin instead of his own son. Meanwhile, MK gets into trouble with a cult named Ajax, who steals his pendant. Sonny breaks up the fight and confiscates the necklace. And here the plot thickens. The symbol on the pendant is identical to a mysterious compass Sonny keeps hidden. Ryder, always a pain in the ass, invades Sonny's room shortly after, argues about the Widow, and takes the pendant away. Behind the scenes at the mansion, Quinn is about to marry a much younger girl named Jade. His first wife, Lydia, doesn't seem too shaken, assuring her son that she controls the Baron's mind while the new girl gets his body. Plot twist: Ryder is sleeping with his future stepmother. Top-tier family drama. Sonny's personal life is also getting complicated. He has a secret girlfriend, Vale, who reveals she's pregnant. Since Clippers are forbidden from having families, Sonny panics and confronts her, shattering the girl's dream of escaping the Badlands. But the real chaos happens at night. Ajax tries to beat up MK again in the bathroom. Only this time, the boy sees his own blood. His eyes turn pitch black, and he goes into a state of demonic fury, nearly killing his rival. Sonny watches it all and finally understands why the Widow wanted the kid so badly. MK reveals that the necklace's symbol represents Azra, his homeland, which supposedly lies beyond the borders of the Badlands. Soon after, Sonny is ambushed by the Widow's men. He dispatches them all with his usual ease, and the Widow herself steps out of the shadows to try and negotiate for MK. Sonny turns down the offer. Ignoring all survival instincts, MK tries to retrieve his pendant from Ryder's room, gets caught, and is sentenced to death. Sonny helps the kid sneak out, but Lydia sees everything from the shadows. With tensions rising and knowing things are about to get worse, Quinn asks Sonny to move closer to the main house, setting the stage for the inevitable conflict. The Widow doesn't waste any time. She goes to a bar to try and recruit her former right-hand man, Teague. The reunion is suddenly cut short by an axe flying straight into his head, courtesy of a group of assassins. The Widow barely blinks, wipes the floor with the attackers all by herself, and moves on. Meanwhile, MK continues his desperate flight through the woods and bumps into a girl his age named Tilda. With bloodhounds on the kid's tail, she offers him food and hides him. The catch is that they've crossed into the Widow's territory, forcing Sonny and Ryder to halt their pursuit at the border to avoid a diplomatic incident and an immediate war. In the safety of the house, Tilda introduces MK to her mother. Surprise! Her mother is the Widow herself. She shows him a drawing of the mysterious necklace, but the boy plays dumb. To take down Baron Quinn, the Widow tries to strike a deal with a group of nomads, offering them territory. They laugh in her face and spit out that they don't work for a bunch of girls. Poor choice of words. She makes a wager and pits Tilda against one of them in a fight. The girl kills the brute in under 30 seconds. The nomads quickly change their tune about the alliance, and MK watches the whole thing from hiding. Far from there, Quinn and Sunny visit the local doctor. Quinn's diagnosis is a disaster. His mysterious illness is progressing rapidly. To ensure the secret doesn't leak and weaken his position, Quinn orders Sunny to execute the doctor and his wife Hannah. Sunny firmly refuses, arguing that he only kills enemies. Without hesitation, Quinn takes Sunny's sword and does the dirty work himself, showing the true extent of his brutality. Back at the rival mansion, the widow suspects MK is the lethal weapon she's been looking for. She orders Tilda to cut the guy to see if his blood activates his power. But the girl can't bring herself to do it. She cuts her own hand, pretends the blood is MK's, and fools her mother, saving the boy. When Vale finds out that the doctor and Hannah, who were like family to her, were murdered, she breaks down. Sunny admits Quinn is to blame, and in a complete change of heart, promises to protect Vale and the baby, swearing he'll find a way to get them out of the Badlands once and for all. Things get tense when MK and Tilda are caught kissing in the widow's office while looking for an escape route. Out of patience, the widow kicks the boy out and hands him over to the nomads. They, of course, waste no time knocking MK out to collect the hefty bounty Quinn put on his head. Speaking of bounties and traps, Ryder gets a tip that the nomads are stealing from his father and drags Sunny to an abandoned building. It's a perfectly orchestrated ambush by the widow. Dozens of nomads attack simultaneously. Ryder is quickly incapacitated and knocked out, leaving all the heavy lifting to Sunny. MK wakes up just in time and saves Sunny's life by stabbing the nomad leader. The kid finally confesses that he lied and knows the way out of the Badlands. Sunny proposes a pact. He'll make MK his official cult to train and protect him, and in return, the boy will guide Vale to safety. With the plan set, Sunny takes MK back to Quinn's fort. The Baron accepts the new apprentice but warns he'll be keeping his eyes open, and with Ryder injured and his patience worn thin, Quinn gives the final order. The war against the widow has just begun. War is declared. Quinn sends his clippers straight to the widow's house to settle things by force. It's MK's first mission as a cult, and he stands watch with the other boys from the squad. All hell breaks loose. The widow's girls know how to fight, but Quinn also puts in the work. The Baron almost lands the fatal blow on the widow herself, but one of his damn headaches strikes at the exact wrong moment. She tries to strike back, but Sunny steps in to block the final attack. While the chaos unfolds, MK abandons his post, sneaks into the house, and retrieves the mysterious book of Azra. To top it off, he catches Tilda escaping through a secret tunnel hidden behind a bookcase, and the two share a look before she vanishes into the dark. Back at the Baron's mansion, the vibe is pure poison. Ryder is still in a coma. Lydia and Jade trade sparks by his bedside. When Quinn returns frustrated and empty-handed from the raid, he and Lydia start bickering about tactics and weaknesses. Quinn's way of handling the situation and provoking his ex-wife? He goes to the next room and loudly has sex with Jade just so Lydia can hear it from her comatose son's room. The guy is a masterclass level monster. MK hands the book over to Sunny, and the official training begins. Sunny tries to teach the kid discipline by taking him to Waldo, a former Clipper who's bound to a wheelchair. MK underestimates the veteran and ends up taking the worst beating of his life. It's like Yoda teaching Luke, but with a lot more bone crunching. The lesson about appearances is made crystal clear. Trying to save Ryder, Jade gets the brilliant idea to call Vale, Sunny's secret girlfriend. Vale takes the risk, drills a hole in Ryder's skull to relieve the cranial pressure, and the brutal procedure works. Ryder wakes up. Quinn shows up shortly after, oozing creepy charm and lying through his teeth as he promises to find the killers of Vale's parents, whom he murdered himself. On the flip side, Sunny hunts down the widow's remnants and corners Angelica. The girl is so loyal to her leader that after a rooftop chase, she chooses to throw herself off a balcony to her death rather than give up her boss's location. MK, who is on backup duty, crosses paths with Tilda once again and, disobeying his orders, lets the girl slip away quietly. Quinn needs allies and sends Sunny to negotiate with Baron Jacoby's regent, Zephyr. The woman doesn't even try to hide it. She suggests Sunny just kill Quinn so the other barons can carve up his territory. Sunny keeps his cool and his loyalty, managing to at least get a promise that Jacoby will consider the alliance. The episode's tension wraps up when MK sneaks into Vale's room asking for help translating the book, but she doesn't recognize the language. The real problem knocks on the door. Quinn walks in, asking for help with his tumor, using that same bizarre manipulative tone, while MK hides, holding his breath to avoid being discovered in the Viper's nest. The widow's rule is simple. Appearing weak is her greatest advantage. Tilda shows up in the middle of a woodland road, face bloodied, looking scared and harmless. As soon as a gold transport car belonging to another baron stops, the widow's girls emerge from the shadows. Within seconds, the guards are dead, and the gold is theirs. To ensure maximum chaos, the widow plants the body of one of Quinn's men at the scene. Sunny and MK continue their training outside the walls. The kid acts purely on instinct and lands a strike that nearly knocks Sunny out, but he faints from exhaustion right after. The power is raw, but the toll it takes on the boy's body is heavy, leaving him completely vulnerable after using it. Back at the mansion, preparations for Quinn and Jade's wedding are in full swing, with Jade trying to act like the good daughter Lydia never had. Lydia's response is a bomb dropped with cold elegance. She tells Jade to stop sleeping with the father and the son at the same time. Jade's jaw drops to the floor. Pure soap opera drama, but with swords and poison. Speaking of poison, Ryder uncovers his mother's plans and warns Jade that it was Lydia who killed Quinn's first wife using a toxic flower. Meanwhile, Vale confesses to Sunny that there's no cure for the Baron's tumor, but she plans to use a potion from her father to accelerate his decline. Sunny warns her that if Quinn falls now, the war will swallow everyone whole. The planted message by the widow works. Quinn receives the severed head of his clipper, along with a demand for an official parley with Jacoby. The Baron manipulates Ryder into setting up the meeting in person. The big showdown happens at a cemetery. Tensions are already hanging by a thread when a pickaxe flies out of nowhere straight at Quinn's head. Sunny manages to intercept the weapon just in time, and an all-out brawl erupts between the armies. Amidst the chaos, MK takes off running after the person responsible for the attack, Tilda. During the chase, Tilda cuts MK with her throwing star, and then all hell breaks loose. The kid's eyes turn pitch black and he starts choking Tilda with just one hand. The impressive part is that in her desperation, she talks to him, and her voice alone is enough to snap him out of the trance. He passes out again, but not before Sunny witnesses the whole thing from a distance. Everything clicks for the Clipper. To stop the pointless bloodbath in the graveyard, Sunny presents Tilda's weapon, proving that the widow orchestrated the whole thing. But the victory is short-lived. Upon returning home, Quinn discovers that the widow hasn't just wiped out his local forces, she's bought out his cogs with the stolen gold. His patience runs out right there, and his final order is for Sunny to wipe out their rival brutally. In the political shadows, Ryder and Zephyr betray their leaders and strike a deal with the widow. They take over as barons, and she gets the boy with the pendant, MK. With the walls closing in, Sunny uses a contact to set up a meeting with the River King, seeking safe passage for himself and Vale out of the Badlands. The king agrees, but the price is steep. He shows Sunny a boat full of corpses and demands the head of the killer who did it, MK. Sunny has one hell of a nightmare. MK with black eyes sending him to his death. He wakes up in a cold sweat next to Vale and decides to test the compass on the Book of Azra. It's a perfect fit, and the needle points northeast. The path exists, but he warns Vale that the price to get out of there will be high. At the fort, Quinn is in trouble. Without his cogs, the harvest is at risk. Lydia suggests caution, but Jade chimes in with a revolutionary idea. Treat the workers with respect to earn their loyalty. Quinn thinks education breeds rebellion, a classic slave owner mentality, but agrees to let Jade train a task force for the harvest. Lydia watches it all, furious at being sidelined. The stress takes its toll when Quinn suffers a massive, crippling headache right in front of his men. Jade has to step in and give the speech to save face.
It needs...
Your Baron will be fine. We have work to do.
Meanwhile, Sunny, MK, and two other Clippers, Patry and Bale, head out to hunt the widow in the woods. The widow, in turn, is busy recruiting Quinn's former cogs and testing boys, trying to find the one who wields the dark power. She tells Tilda that the power drains the life out of its bearer with every use. Tilda, visibly protective, raises her mother's suspicions, prompting the widow to send her out to check the traps in the woods. And speaking of traps, Sunny's group stumbles upon a network of them. MK almost steps on a trigger, but ends up setting off a domino effect that clamps a bear trap onto Patry's leg. Even so, they set up camp, and MK takes the first watch. Of course, Tilda shows up. She warns him that the widow is suspicious and that the power could kill him. The teenage angst is interrupted by Sunny, who emerges from the shadows and ties the girl up. Bale tries to play the tough interrogator, insults Tilda, and ends up getting his ear bitten off by her. Nobody feels sorry for him. Far from there, Ryder continues scheming. He visits Waldo, who suggests the boy seek out his grandfather, Penrith. The old man leads a religious community, and Ryder goes there to ask about MK's pendant. Penrith swears that Azra is just a fairy tale to comfort the weak, but as soon as Ryder turns his back, the leader orders his abbots to fetch a dark one from the fort. The situation at Quinn's mansion spirals completely out of control. Vale gives the Baron a blood transfusion and misses the perfect chance to poison him. Shortly after, Jade passes out of nowhere, seemingly poisoned. Lydia plays dumb, but the pieces are already in motion. Down in the dungeon, the Widow breaks in to save Tilda. It's the matchup we've been waiting for. Sunny versus the Widow. Swords fly, acrobatics ensue, and Sunny manages a nasty slice across her abdomen. While the adults settle things with blades, MK tries to untie Tilda, but Bale attacks him and starts kicking the girl. Left with no choice, MK cuts himself on purpose. His power awakens, his eyes turn pitch black, and with a blast of air, he hurls Bale into a weapons rack, impaling the boy. The Widow and Sunny pause their fight to watch the horror show. Tilda uses the opening to escape with her wounded mother, while MK passes out. Sunny thinks he's got the situation under control, but Quinn was hiding in the shadows, watching everything with the look of a man who just found the perfect weapon. Sunny tries to pull a fast one on the River King by handing over dead Bale's head instead of MK's. The king seems to swallow the bait and tells him the boat leaves at midnight. Sunny rushes to warn Vale, who finally packs her bags, but not before asking one last time if Sunny killed her parents. He denies it, since it was Quinn who pulled the trigger. Meanwhile, the Game of Thrones at the fort reaches its climax. Jade recovers from the poisoning, and Quinn conveniently finds the toxic flower in the false bottom of Lydia's jewelry box. He banishes his first wife from the fort with nothing but the clothes on her back. Lydia quickly catches on to the play. Jade poisoned herself to frame her. Ryder watches his mother get exiled without lifting a finger, and uses the chaos to throw Sunny to the wolves. He tells Quinn about the Clippers' secret meetings with the Widow. The Baron buys the story, strips Sunny of his rank, confiscates his sword, and throws him in the dungeon, warning him that MK, Vale, and the baby now belong to him. Without Sunny to protect her, Vale is kidnapped, but not by Quinn. Tilda takes her to the Widow, who is dying from an infection. Vale stitches up the wound and stabilizes the Baron, but leaves 3 vials behind, 1 with the cure and 2 with lethal poison. She leaves the Widow's fate in Tilda's hands. Back in the dungeon, Waldo shows up, snaps the guard's neck, and confesses to Sunny that he's the traitor working with the Widow to blow up the system. As a bonus, he drops a bombshell. Sunny was found as a child wearing the exact same Azra pendant as MK. Waldo tells Sunny to run, but running away and abandoning others was never the protagonist's strong suit. Quinn takes MK to an abandoned city for an initiation, sealing the deal to spare Sunny's life if the boy proves loyal. But it's all an ambush set up by Ryder, Zephyr, and Baron Jacoby. What the conspirators didn't expect was that Jacoby, by slapping MK's back, would activate the boy's berserker mode. MK gets up with black eyes and tosses Jacoby into a storefront like a rag doll. Amidst the chaos, Sunny emerges from the shadows. He corners Quinn trying to escape, drives a sword through the Baron's gut, and relishes telling him, "You will be my last tattoo," leaving Quinn bleeding out on the floor. Sunny runs to stop MK from killing Ryder. The party is crashed by a mysterious car. It's Penrith's abbots. If you thought MK was dangerous, the abbots are on a whole other level. They activate the exact same dark power, but with total control. They knock MK out in seconds. Sunny jumps into the fray, but the lead abbot simply snaps his sword in half with his bare hands before delivering a brutal beatdown. Channeling the dark force, they throw Sunny through brick walls, leaving the Badlands' best clipper crushed on the ground. The abbots toss MK into a trunk and drive off. When the dust settles, Vale arrives at the ruined city and finds only Sunny's broken sword, assuming the worst. And what about him? He wakes up chained and gagged in the hold of a ship. The River King discovered the fake head trick and sold Sunny into slavery. MK, taken by the abbots, ends the season exactly how he started it, locked inside a trunk, heading toward a completely unknown fate. 6 months have passed, and Sunny's reality has been flipped upside down. The guy who was the lethal legend of the Badlands is now basically a slave, digging coal at the Bordeaux mines, far from home. He spends his days chained to a smuggler named Baji, and the vibe in this place is grim. Anyone who doesn't hit their mining quota goes straight to an arena to become a bloody spectacle before being executed. Obviously, mining rocks isn't part of Sunny's long-term plans, and he's already sketching out his escape. Baji manages to get his hands on a map and tries to tag along on the mission, but Sunny rejects the partnership. Baji's response? He sells out the former Clipper's true identity to the mine boss, known as the Engineer. While Sunny deals with betrayal in the mud, MK is going through an intensive training boot camp with the mysterious Abbots, guided by an instructor named Ava. The kid ends up meeting the master of the place, who makes that classic martial arts mentor promise. Learn to control your destructive powers, and you'll earn your freedom. Back in the Badlands, the political landscape has completely shifted. Ryder is living his glory days. With his father presumed dead, he's taken over the coveted role of Baron, and now controls not only his own family's territory, but also Jacoby's and the Widow's domains. And of course, Jade is ruling right by his side. But Ryder's peace has an expiration date. During a routine inspection at the oil fields, the Widow emerges from the shadows. She's brought Tilda along, who now wears the Regent's colors. It's a brutal, no-holds-barred surprise attack. They slaughter Ryder's Clippers, retake control of the fields, and send the new Baron retreating in a panic. The Widow is now leading a growing army of former cogs and dolls, promising to dismantle the feudal system and establish a democratic society. To prove she isn't messing around, Tilda recruits a former doll named Odessa and makes a point of executing on the spot any Clipper who hurt them. And remember Quinn, the guy who took a sword to the chest and everyone thought had crossed over to the other side? Yeah, the guy is impossible to kill. He's hiding out in an abandoned train station, serving as dark company for Vale, who has just given birth to a baby boy. Baji's betrayal didn't bear the fruits he hoped for at the mine. It turns out the Engineer hates rats just as much as he hates rebellious prisoners, so he sends them both straight to the combat arena. Their opponent is none other than the local champion, a brute affectionately named Mouse. What the Engineer didn't expect was that the mine crew forgot the basic safety rule of any dystopian prison. They left the arena completely unguarded. Fueled by pure hatred and working together, Sunny and Baji take down the big guy, find the exit, and crawl their way out through the ventilation system. When they finally breathe fresh air, they realize they're in the outlying territories, and there's a giant wall separating them from the Badlands. The journey home isn't going to be easy. Meanwhile, on the other side of that wall, the Widow's new hierarchy takes shape. Tilda is learning the nuances of what it takes to be a true regent, and surprisingly, her teacher is Waldo, who's now clocking in to help organize the rebellion. As for Lydia, she's trying to find some peace living with her father, Penrith, and his pacifist community, the Totemists. Everything finally seems quiet until a group of nomads crashes a wedding, demanding everyone's valuables. Since the Totemists take the whole non-violence thing very seriously, nobody moves a muscle. Lydia, who has zero patience for this kind of bullshit, handles the situation the classic Badlands way, by single-handedly slaughtering all the thugs. Her reward for saving the community? Her father disowns her actions and kicks her out of the group. With nowhere else to go, she swallows her pride and returns to Ryder, who welcomes her with all the icy detachment of a son who couldn't care less about having his mother around. At the monastery, MK's training enters a much deeper phase. The master sends the boy into a mirror room, straight out of Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, with a single mission: face and master his inner demon, and the demon in this case is his own dark counterpart. Closing in on the abandoned West Avalon train station, Quinn decides that Vale's newborn, now baptized Henry, needs an official ceremony. He conducts a bizarre and bloody baptism, proclaiming the baby as the newest heir to the Badlands. Because of course, if you're going to be raised by a psychopathic baron hiding in the rubble, your welcome party is bound to involve blood. Trekking through the outlands, Sunny and Baji finally find a bridge leading back to the Badlands. The only problem is that the passage has a gatekeeper, and to make matters worse, bounty hunters are hot on their trail. Luckily, the gatekeeper decides to lend a hand, effortlessly slicing up the hunters, and even offering them shelter. We soon discover that this guy isn't just any toll guard. He's Nathaniel Moon, the legendary Silver Moon, a former regent who, much like Sunny, tried to leave the killing life behind to build a family. The catch? His wife and son were murdered by a warlord. Basically, he's the John Wick of this universe, except instead of coming out of retirement over a dog, he fully embraced his violent identity and became a bounty hunter. Moon gives it to Sunny straight: men like them can never truly change, no matter how hard they try. Meanwhile, the widow is prepping for the Baron conclave. Since politics in this world is pure poison, she chooses Waldo to be her second at the meeting, leaving Tilda in charge of the base in case things go south. It's a necessary strategic move for the snake pit she's about to walk into. Far away, Vale continues to push her luck. She falsifies Quinn's medical exams, swapping the Baron's compromising x-rays for images of a completely healthy brain. It's a dangerous game of medical manipulation to keep the unstable leader somewhat under control. Back at the monastery, MK makes a disturbing discovery. The whole illusion of peaceful monks seeking balance crumbles when he finds his friend Tate being used as a lab rat. The abbots are running experiments to drain the boys of their abilities. At the camp, Silver Moon reveals his true goal. He wants to hit a personal milestone of 1,000 kills, and in his mind, Sunny is the perfect opponent for this landmark. Moon challenges the protagonist to a fight to the death. Either Sunny becomes statistic number 1,000, or he does Moon a favor by killing him, finally ending his endless grief. Sunny, who just wants to find his family, refuses to put on the executioner's hood. The situation spirals out of control until Baji, proving he's actually good for something other than complaining, jumps into the fray to make sure Sunny makes it out in one piece.
I couldn't let him do it, partner. You got a promise to keep.
Quinn finally moves his pieces on the board, heading out with his clippers on a new mission and leaving his stronghold practically empty. Seizing the opening, Vale sees her major window of opportunity. Trapped in the transit station with baby Henry, and only a single massive clipper named Edgar standing guard, she puts a plan into motion. Vale manages to drug the guy, but luck isn't on her side. Even passed out, Edgar's gigantic body collapses right in front of the only exit, completely blocking the door. On the other side of the Badlands, the political climate is boiling ahead of the conclave vote. The widow tries to sway Baroness Chow to her side, even considering giving up her biggest platform, offering asylum to runaway cogs. It's the classic dilemma of swallowing your pride to survive the power game. While war brews outside, MK decides to take a mental trip courtesy of one of the master's opium-laced origamis. He heads back to the mirror room, determined to find out what really happened the day his mother died. The answer hits him like a punch to the gut. He was the one who killed her while completely blinded by his own dark power. At the conclave, diplomacy doesn't last long. The 5 remaining barons unite in a block against the widow, declaring she violated the Foundation Treaty. In a coordinated and aggressive move, they strip her of her baroness title, confiscate all her lands and privileges, and give her 48 hours to wipe herself off the map. Obviously, the widow isn't the type to pack her bags and leave quietly. The stage is set for a bloodbath, and right in the middle of this extreme tension, Quinn decides to make his triumphant entrance. He invades the meeting grounds, but surprisingly, his main target isn't the widow or the other leaders. Quinn chases Ryder into a hedge maze, which gives off some serious The Shining vibes, and, in a direct and unhesitating confrontation, kills his own son right in the middle of the garden. Chaos takes over. The conclave turns into a war zone. As the barons close in, Tilda appears out of nowhere in the middle of the brawl, joining forces with Waldo and her mother. The talking is over, the masks are off, and the widow's fight for a world without slavery will now be settled exclusively at the point of a sword. Sunny and Baji arrive in Nose's territory looking for a smuggler's route. Baji and Nose have a history, which always complicates things, but Sunny cuts straight to the chase. He hands over Silver Moon's coveted sword as payment for passage. Deal closed. The problem is that Nose doesn't know when to shut his mouth. During dinner, the guy crosses every line of basic decency. Aside from being repulsive, he drops the bomb that Quinn is alive following the conclave attack. Sunny is baffled. After all, he's the one who drove a sword through the Baron's chest. The guy's healer must be the best in the Badlands. Later, while Baji goes off to have some fun with Ravel, Sunny declines Portia's services. The woman is desperate. She fears her daughter Amelia will become Nose's next doll and begs Sunny to kill the local boss. Sunny turns down the job, but the next day things go sideways. Nose discovers Portia's plan, slashes her face as punishment, and says she must make up for the losses. That's when Sunny's patience snaps. He goes into full combat mode. Baji shows up at the last second with the car to save the girl, and the crew escapes, taking Moon's sword back, along with the girl and a severely injured Portia. Far away, MK finally decides to ditch the monks. Ava sees him leaving but hesitates to sound the alarm. To disguise himself, the boy comes across a twisted tree full of bodies and, in a survival move straight out of The Walking Dead, takes clothes from one of them and vanishes off the grid. Meanwhile, Badlands politics are boiling over. Jade is officially declared Baroness after Ryder's death, and her first major act is vowing revenge on Quinn. Quinn himself is suffering from heavy hallucinations involving his dead son's ghost. And worse, the ghost makes some good points. Ryder suggests Vale lied about his tumor being in remission and tells his father to threaten Henry to pry out the truth. Vale's tension only skyrockets. The Clipper Declan figures out she lied about Edgar, since the guard preferred men and never would have attacked her, and finds the x-rays proving Quinn's tumor is still very much there. The situation explodes when Vale catches Quinn holding a knife near the baby, completely unhinged under the hallucination's influence. Out of options, she uses her only weapon. She lies, saying the tumor is gone, and kisses the Baron to mentally disarm him. The widow realizes the conclave was a disaster, and going against Waldo's advice to kill Quinn to appease the other barons, decides to do the unthinkable, ally with him, but she has to find him first. Lydia is the one who locates the hideout, leading Jade's forces to take down her ex-husband, but the bunker was rigged. A bomb goes off, taking down Lydia and the Clippers. Amid the chaos and smoke, Vale uses Quinn's distraction to grab Henry and sprint straight into the woods. The dust settles in the ruined bunker, and Lydia wakes up in the middle of a nightmare. Body parts are scattered everywhere while Quinn and his men finish off the survivors by slitting their throats. Quinn walks up to Lydia, his sword dripping with blood. She doesn't back down, throwing it in his face that she was there to avenge Ryder. Quinn fires back that their son had the chance to kill him, but hesitated. He then hands Lydia a knife, testing his ex-wife. She doesn't think twice and attacks. He blocks it easily, slices his own chest, smears the blood on her lips, and, in a bizarre twist, the two start making out. The dynamic of this family desperately needs therapy. In the woods, Vale continues her desperate run with Henry. Declan is hot on her heels, almost catching her, until another runaway helps her escape at the critical moment. Luck finally smiles on Vale when the widow's scouts find her and take her straight to the sanctuary. Inside, Tilda is dealing with her own drama. Odessa threatens to leave after finding out about the widow's alliance with Quinn, believing the Baroness is just another dictator. That's when Tilda reveals the real reason behind her loyalty. In the past, the widow murdered the man who had been terrorizing Tilda, saving her life on the very night she planned to kill herself. The revelation creates an instant bond, and Odessa decides to stay for Tilda. The two kiss but are interrupted by Waldo, who dryly warns Tilda not to head down the same tragic path as Sonny. Speaking of tragedy, Vale's arrival at the sanctuary comes with a price. The widow tries to extract Quinn's location and the translation of the Azra book from her. Since Vale can't decipher the book, she's quickly deemed useless. Needing the alliance with Quinn to survive the coming war, Minerva makes the coldest decision possible, brokering a deal to hand Vale and the baby back to the maniacal Baron in exchange for the partnership. Away from the politics, Sonny manages to leave Portia with a healer, ensuring she'll survive, and gets enough gas to continue his hunt. His target is MK, who is currently on the run with Ava, trying to stay off the monk's radar. The Abbott trackers pass right by Baji and Sonny. Baji explains how dangerous the Abbotts are, but outright refuses to help, leaving Sonny to press on alone. MK and Ava take shelter in an abandoned hotel, where MK finds a magazine featuring the Azra symbol, confirming the city isn't a myth and the monks have been lying. But there's no time to celebrate. The Abbotts corner them, and Sonny arrives just in time to even the odds. The ensuing fight is brutal. MK can't activate his powers, so Ava uses her dark energy against the Abbotts, who activate theirs as well. Sonny engages in a fierce one-on-one with the leader, Cyan, but our heroes are outmatched. Ava is thrown with terrifying force and ends up impaled on a metal structure. At the very last second, Baji comes out of nowhere, running over the monks with the car. He reveals himself to be a former abbot who lost his powers, using a paralyzing strike on Cyan that allows Sonny to finish the monk off, but the relief is short-lived. Before dying, Cyan lands a fatal blow on Sonny's chest. As Ava dies in MK's arms, Sonny simply collapses, leaving a lingering question. What the hell did the monk do to his heart? The widow doesn't waste any time and launches a direct strike on Jade's compound. The invasion is so overwhelming that it sparks an immediate mutiny among the estate's own cogs and clippers. Respect for the current baroness evaporates so fast that one of the workers steps up and simply beats her to the ground. A loyal clipper tries to play the hero and save his boss, but gets shredded by the widow's butterflies. With Jade neutralized, Quinn is brought in to deliver the final blow. But in a rare, twisted moment of mercy, he decides to just exile her to the border. Meanwhile, Sonny Sunny is literally rotting from the inside out. The 5 poisons hand technique he took from the Abbott leader is shutting down his major organs one by one, saving his heart for last. Only much slower and far more agonizing. MK insists they need to raid the monastery for a cure. Baji swears the cure doesn't exist, but eventually caves. On the road, Baji finally spills the beans about his past. He reveals he used to train an incredibly promising girl nicknamed Flea. The problem was that during a rescue mission against slave traders, she got cut. Her gift awakened. She completely lost control and butchered everyone, including the people they were trying to save. As a result, her power was forcefully stripped away. Baji used his own gift to revive her and help her escape, and he's been looking for her ever since. The Badlands was the only place left on the map. Upon arriving at the monastery, the duo manages to sneak in. Baji finds the healing scroll and, as a bonus, locates Sunny's compass, a detail he pockets while lying straight to MK's face. The escape almost goes smoothly, but they run right into the master and the students during dinner. MK and Baji start cutting down the acolytes, and chaos erupts when the boys' powers awaken and they turn on their own teachers. While the master fights to survive the bloody rebellion of her own students, Baji and MK make a run for it. The ritual with the scroll works, but not before Sunny goes through absolute psychological hell. During his coma, Sunny dreams of the peaceful life he always wanted. Him, Vale, and a grown-up Henry. But the boy wants to fight like his father. Artemis, the ghost of Sunny's first kill, appears to corrupt the child, handing Henry a sword and marking him with his first kill tallies. Vale discovers this and decides to leave with her son. That's when the nightmare peaks. Henry kills his own mother because he doesn't want to go. Sunny confronts Artemis and is suddenly buried under the ghosts of every single person he's ever killed. He wakes up gasping for air, certain that reality, no matter how grim, is still better than his own mind. The alliance between the Widow and Quinn starts out soaked in blood, wiping other barons off the map. The Widow decapitates Baron Hassan without blinking, but even she gets sick to her stomach when she finds out Quinn massacred the entire Broadmoor clan, sparing absolutely no one. There's a line between military revolution and pure carnage, and Quinn clearly crossed it a long time ago. Far from the slaughter, Tilda and the other butterflies are still at the hideout with Quinn's men. That's where she gets a harsh reality check running into Vale and Lydia. Tilda had no idea her mother had literally handed Vale over on a silver platter to a psychopath like Quinn. Vale doesn't miss the chance to plant a seed of doubt in the girl's head about the Widow's true intentions, even while admitting that leaving Quinn alive in the past was her own grotesque mistake. Meanwhile, Sunny, MK, and Baji's journey back goes completely off the rails. Baji pays a smuggler to get them on a transport, but the guy sells the group out to Baroness Chow's forces. The transport is attacked, and they become prisoners. Sunny demands to speak directly to the Baroness, using his tattoos as credentials.
Take me to your baron now.
Chow confirms his worst fear. Quinn is alive and allied with the Widow. Knowing she's next on the hit list, Chow offers Sunny the regent position. He turns down the job but makes a counteroffer. He'll use MK as bait to lure the Widow into a trap. In exchange, Chow promises to leave him and his family alone. Dressed in Chow's colors, Sunny demands MK be released to serve as bait. Baji is outraged, thinking he's been left to rot in a cell, until he realizes Sunny stealthily slipped a key into his pocket. Baji escapes but decides to follow the duo to the warehouse to see how the trap plays out. When the Widow hears from a defector that a boy matching MK's description is being sold to the River King, she swallows the bait whole. She breaches the warehouse with Tilda to rescue the boy, only to find Sunny's sword at her throat. The tables turn the exact second the Widow plays her trump card. She knows where Vale and Henry are. Basically, Sunny would switch sides and ally with the devil himself if it meant saving his family. In the blink of an eye, he teams up with the Widow, and the two obliterate Chow's forces in a perfectly synchronized display of brutality. Back at the lair, Quinn's delusions reach an all-time high. During a bizarre dinner, he announces Henry as his heir, and to make the madness official, demands to marry Vale right then and there. Under severe duress, she accepts, while Lydia is forced to officiate the ceremony. Vale already has a plan in motion: kill Quinn on their wedding night. But before she can pull the trigger on her revenge, Lydia, who had been caught trying to escape with the baby, bursts into the room with a spine-chilling warning for the Baron. Baron. Sunny is back in the Badlands, and he is on his way. The big mystery is finally solved. Baji's flea is none other than Minerva, the widow herself. A flashback to 20 years ago at the monastery reveals she's been carrying that Azra book since she was a kid, a gift from her father. Baji kept her secret, and the girl already had a clear preference for butterfly swords and daggers. Some things never change. Speaking of parallels, MK and the widow have more in common than it seems. Both lost their powers, carry the symbols of Azra, and have endured heavy trauma. The difference is that MK wants nothing to do with that dark magic, which is pretty understandable given the trail of blood he leaves behind, while the widow wants her gift back to tear down the oppressive system of the Badlands. Inside the widow's fortress, the mood is tense. Baji manages to talk his way in, mixing just enough truth and lies to slip past the guards. MK thinks he's going to get a cute reunion with Tilda, but she gives him the cold shoulder. The reason? Odessa snitched about the massacre MK caused on the boat, and as if ruining the romance wasn't enough, Odessa also tips off the widow that Baji and MK are planning to steal the book and run off to find Sunny. Far away, Sunny reunites with Waldo, who, being the ever-pragmatic old man, opens up his weapons stash for him, and Sunny is going to need it. Quinn is growing more insane by the minute. The guy actually bribes a kid named Gabriel with ice cream to turn him into a suicide bomber. Gabriel walks into the widow's sanctuary, kills one of the girls, and drops a verbal time bomb. He warns Sunny that Vale married Quinn, and that the widow was the one who handed her over. The kid then detonates the explosives, turning the sanctuary into absolute chaos. Amid the destruction, the widow still finds the time to hit Sunny with a throwing star. He escapes and bumps into Baji, telling the ex-monk to rescue MK and meet him at the fort. Meanwhile, in the bunker, Vale tests Quinn's patience by slapping him across the face while he's holding little Henry, a terrible time to provoke a psychopath. Luckily, Lydia steps in to de-escalate, but she's already figured out Quinn's true endgame. He's rigging the bunker with explosives to turn the place into a death trap for Sunny. Back at the ruined sanctuary, the widow's betrayal catches up with her. Tilda confronts her mother for handing Vale over to a monster like Quinn. The argument quickly escalates into a fierce hand-to-hand fight. Tilda proves just how much she's evolved, landing some solid hits, but the widow is lethal. Overpowered, Tilda screams at Minerva to just kill her already, leaving the heavy freezing weight of the widow's choices hanging in the air.
Kill me!
The widow tries to rearrange the pieces on the board by offering Waldo the title of Baron, but the old man is too smart to be a puppet. He refuses, warns her that Sunny and Quinn will come after her, and hits the road. Minerva doesn't seem to care, entirely focused on her newest prisoner, MK. She wants to force him to reactivate his dark powers, and to break the boy, she brings Baji into the room, accusing the ex-monk of having used him in the past just for the book. MK questions Baji's intentions and walks away in disgust. The widow demands that Baji translate the book, but he finally realizes she has lost herself to her own ambition. Down in the cells, Tilda wakes up next to Baji. Odessa shows up playing savior, but hesitates to release the big guy. However, Tilda knows Sunny is the only one who can stop the widow now, so she frees Baji. On their way out, they are stopped by guards, but Waldo steps in to ensure the duo's escape. It's the old master's final goodbye. While MK vows to kill the widow as soon as he gets his powers back, the real war is brewing. Quinn delivers an inflammatory speech to his men, glorifying his human time bomb. Lydia tries to throw a wrench in his plans by warning the army that the bunker is rigged with explosives, but the cult of Quinn is so blind that no one blinks an eye. The Baron orders Lydia to dig her own grave. Big mistake. She kills one of the guards, knocks out the other, and escapes through the woods, running straight into Sunny. Lydia gives him the heads up about the booby traps in the bunker, gets a dagger as a thank you, and they part ways. Sunny's invasion is brutal. He advances under a rain of flaming arrows, taking 2 to the body, but he doesn't stop. Quinn detonates the first round of explosives and retreats with baby Henry. Sunny ends up buried under the rubble until Baji, who hitched a ride with Tilda, shows up to dig his friend out. The two beat their way through the base until they find Vale. The reunion is short-lived as they need to find Henry. Baji stays behind to hold off the goons and ends up taking a nasty pair of shears to the gut, a high price to pay for someone who just wanted to play hero. Sunny and Vale reach Quinn just before he triggers more explosives. The the dust settles and the final showdown begins. It's an intense fight, reminiscent of the old Clipper and Baron days, until Sonny manages to drive his sword through Quinn's chest. He takes his son and thinks it's over, but true villains have a nasty habit of getting back up. Quinn grabs Vale as a hostage. Cornered and knowing the Baron would never stop, Vale makes the heaviest decision of all. She pulls Quinn's blade into her own body, ensuring the strike impales them both and kills the villain for good. Her last words are a plea for Sonny to raise their son far away from this darkness. After burying Vale, Sonny heads off into the unknown with Henry. Far away, Baji, bleeding and barely able to stand, steals Sonny's motorcycle and reaches an old satellite tower. Using the compass in the book, he activates the ancient machinery. The ex-monk passes out whispering Azra as the machine starts beeping in Morse code. The signal has been sent. Single fatherhood isn't easy for Sonny. He can barely find food for little Henry, and because when it rains, it pours, people are selling his head for scraps. The result of this manhunt? A group of thugs ambushes Sonny in his own trailer. His survival instinct kicks in, and he obliterates the invaders with that surgical brutality from his Clipper days. However, proving that fatherhood really has changed him, he decides to spare the life of the man who sold him out. But bounty hunters are the least of his problems. In the heat of the fight, the stress sets in. Henry spikes a fever, and the newborn's eyes turn pitch black. That's right, the baby also carries the dreaded gift. Desperate to save his son and understand what is happening, Sonny ends up at a refugee camp that, as fate would have it, is run by Lydia. The pit stop leads to a reunion with Baji, putting the Badlands' most dysfunctional and lethal duo back on the road. Meanwhile, the widow continues her war of expansion. She trades blows and swords with Nathaniel Moon, who now sports a dangerous mechanical hand and hasn't lost a step. The widow also has to deal with Tilda, who has decided to adopt a Robin Hood vibe.
Look what I found.
Stealing supplies while wearing a mask that is a straight-up mix of Sub-Zero and Bane, Tilda oozes confidence and is now working alongside Lydia. Far from this action, in the Widow's dungeons, MK has become a pitiful shadow of his former self, locked up, drowning in an opium addiction, and desperate to recover the very power he spent all of last season trying to suppress. And to complicate an already chaotic scenario, new players enter the board. Pilgrim makes his grand entrance accompanied by two superpowered teenagers, Castor and Nyx. The kids storm a checkpoint and tear through Baroness Chow's soldiers like paper. Lydia doesn't miss the chance to drop some uncomfortable truths on the widow. In a tense conversation, she points out the obvious. All this talk of a new free world for the cogs sounds exactly like the old system, just with a new dictator in charge. But Lydia also shows she has other priorities, turning on the charm and revealing an undeniable chemistry with Nathaniel Moon. Considering her past with Quinn, Moon is definitely a massive step up. Speaking of Moon, he decides to test the efficiency of his new mechanical hand by giving MK a good beating. At this point in the game, beating up the kid when he's being arrogant has practically become an official Badlands tradition. Far from this mess, Sonny and Baji urgently need answers regarding baby Henry's dark condition. Baji, despite shaking with fear, suggests they seek out an unpredictable witch named Ankara. They hit the road as fast as possible, which is great, since it helps them avoid a deadly reunion with Moon, who still has scores to settle with Sonny. In parallel, Pilgrim and his bizarre cult find a new base of operations, an abandoned natural history museum, still decorated with old American flags and dinosaur bones. When one of his oldest followers decides to question his leadership and lose faith in the mission, Pilgrim handles the insubordination in a very didactic way. He simply blindfolds himself, beats up the rebels' goons without breaking a sweat, and restores fear within the group. To seek spiritual guidance on the faction's next steps, Pilgrim's right-hand woman, Cressida, takes the weirdness to the extreme. She performs an agonizing blood ritual, suspending her own body in the air to receive visions from the gods, sealing the process with a bloody kiss on Pilgrim. The level of devotion in this crew is no joke, but the real bombshell of the episode explodes in MK's mind. The boy pushes himself too far, and in the middle of a terrifying hallucination, his own dark version confronts him. This dark side forces him to unlock his real memories, and he finally discovers the truth about his mother's death. It wasn't a tragic accident caused by his lack of control. The one who executed her in cold blood was Sonny during his darkest Clipper days, following Quinn's direct orders. The shock of the revelation is so devastating that MK's body can't take it, and he falls into a deep coma. One thing is for sure, sure. When he wakes up, his reunion with Sonny is going to be anything but friendly. In the trenches of war, Sonny realizes that history always repeats itself. He watches the young Clipper, Arthur, break the rules to finish off one of Chow's snipers, and then brag about it as if he had done all the dirty work. The truth is that Sonny had already grounded the guy after an intense fight, but he lets the kid have his moment of glory. After all, Sonny only wants to lead the Widow's troops long enough to cross enemy lines and find the witch Ankara. Behind the scenes, Lydia continues playing 4D chess. She fills Tilda with strategic advice, and the girl absorbs it all, using this new posture to negotiate face-to-face with the Widow.
I'm here to see the Widow!
I'd pretend to be surprised, but we both know.
Lydia even adopts a horse as her new sigil, making it clear she's thinking long-term and setting up her own pieces. With her own squad of war-weary deserters, Tilda ends up crossing paths with Nathaniel Moon. The fight delivers on all fronts. Tilda pulls out her throwing stars and puts up a hell of a fight, but Moon is a legendary regent for a reason and ultimately wins. Odessa tries to play hero to distract Moon and ensure Tilda's escape. The tactic half works. Odessa is captured, but Moon, in a rare moment of diplomacy, spares her life to try to find Tilda's hideout, and even covers up the fact that Odessa was the one who tried to warn the group. Far away, Baji decides to play doctor. A Clipper named Ren takes a poisoned arrow, and Baji makes an executive decision. He orders her leg amputated to save her life. The catch is that he doesn't ask for the patient's opinion. Ren wakes up furious, since in the Badlands, a one-legged Clipper becomes dead weight, and she would have rather died fighting. Zero tact from our renegade monk. Meanwhile, MK goes through the absolute worst with his captors. Subjected to severe torture and humiliation, the stress pushes the boy to his breaking point. The result? His eyes go black. The gift returns full force, unlocking memories from his past. When the Widow shows up, she comes face to face with MK in full rampage mode and instantly realizes she isn't ready to handle him. Luckily for her, Tilda intervenes, managing to calm MK down at the last second and saving Minerva's skin. And the scariest part, unlike Nyx and Castor who need to cut themselves to use the gift, MK seems to be taking full control of his powers. Moon visits the front lines just to take his frustration out on the young Clipper Arthur, proving his head is far from the war. Shortly after, fate puts Moon, Sonny, and Baji on the same path, and the three commit the most amateur mistake of any post-apocalyptic scenario, accepting free food from a blind stranger. The result feels straight out of The Hills Have Eyes. They end up being captured, and to make matters even worse, Henry has been kidnapped too. And it truly is a small world. Sonny recognizes the leaders of the pack. In a flashback to his recruit days alongside Waldo, we discover these cannibals were Quinn's Clippers who deserted for love and tried to kidnap Ryder for ransom. The punishment Sonny handed out back then? He blinded them both. The past literally came to collect the debt in the most bizarre way possible. The escape is pure tactical chaos. Sonny uses Moon's prosthetic hand to break the locks. Baji crushes the assassins using his own body weight, and Sonny clears the room, executing most of his former victims. When the dust settles, Moon's pride speaks louder, and he still wants to fight Sonny to the death. But Sonny simply hits him with reality. If Moon kills him, Henry will grow up, hunt Moon down, and the cycle of blood will never end. The argument hits the mark, and the Regent decides to back down, while the adults sort out their issues. MK has a fit of reckless rebellion. Ignoring Odessa's warnings, he runs away, injured and without a plan. Unsurprisingly, it doesn't take long for Nyx to find him in the middle of nowhere. On the political board, we meet Gaius Chow. Baroness Chow basically blackmails her own brother, forcing him on a suicide mission, assassinate Pilgrim. And Pilgrim needs to be contained, as his promises to build a new Azra are causing Lydia's workers to desert in droves. The Widow and Lydia go to Pilgrim's camp to size him up and debate faith with Cressida. Right in the middle of the conversation, Gaius storms the place with his assassins. Castor goes into berserker mode and charges at Gaius in a frenzied fight. Amidst the chaos, the Widow sees Gaius aiming at Pilgrim and makes a split-second choice. She helps save the new leader, securing a temporary alliance. But the real game changer happens at the end of the battle. To stop Castor from destroying himself by overusing his power, Pilgrim simply touches him and turns off the boy's gift. The Widow watches in awe. The power to control dark energy is the ultimate prize, and she will definitely want that secret. The Widow and Lydia are greeted with a surprise in the trunk of a car. Gaius Chow. Minerva doesn't recognize him right away, but they have a long history. Years ago, when she was just a cog serving at his birthday party, she tripped and dropped drinks in front of everyone. The Baron ordered Gaius to give her 10 lashes. The boy refused, leaving the dirty work to his sister Juliet, who relished the task. In the present, the widow throws Gaius into a cell, but her distrust hides a key detail. He was the one who smuggled her the knife inscribed with no mercy that allowed her to escape the cog pens back then. When Minerva discovers that her refugee camp is about to be attacked, she decides to give her prisoner a vote of confidence. The impending attack is Pilgrim's doing. He and his group corner Baroness Chow, tossing the heads of Gaius's men at her feet. Pilgrim takes no excuses and demands 1,000 workers by the new moon. Left with no options, Chow's men target the widow's camp to abduct these people, but they gain an unwanted leader, Castor, who is secretly sent by Cressida. The boy is desperate to prove his worth, since MK has woken up and seems to be taking his place as the boss's new favorite. At the camp, Tilda and Odessa barely have time to breathe before all hell breaks loose. Castor arrives, slicing everyone up with daggers from the back of a motorcycle. Tilda doesn't back down, lassoing his neck in a straight-up scorpion move from Mortal Kombat, and the fight explodes. The widow, Gaius, and Moon arrive just in time to turn the tide. Castor is defeated and captured, still bragging that Pilgrim will come for him. Meanwhile, Sunny and Baji find the witch Ankara living in the wreckage of a crashed airplane on top of a mountain. She barely lays eyes on Henry, and already knows the baby carries the dark gift. Using Sunny as a conduit, the witch temporarily drains the excess power from the child, revealing that Sunny's own powers were suppressed when he was younger. He is a catalyst, something Baji finds hilarious, until Ankara shows him a radio. The signal Baji sent was answered by Pilgrim, who promises to cleanse the world for a new Azra, translation, blood, and chaos. Left with no choice, Sunny takes Pilgrim's location. If the man is the only chance to cure Henry for good, Sunny will go through anyone who stands in his way. At Pilgrim's camp, MK catches Cressida drawing marks on a wall. He recognizes the pattern instantly. They are the tattoos of the man who killed his mother, representing his kill count. Cressida confirms that Sunny is the missing piece in their plans, and MK makes it clear that revenge is on the table. Pilgrim warns the boy to stand down, but the collision is inevitable. Everyone there knows Sunny is on his way. The Badlands underworld has its own rhythms, and a chaotic market full of fighting pits and knife games is the perfect place to find ghosts from the past. This is where Sunny and Baji bump into Lily. Surprisingly, she is Baji's ex-wife, and judging by the level of hatred in her eyes, the end of their marriage wasn't exactly amicable. After an intense brawl involving Baji, an octopus, and baby Henry right in the middle of the mess, the group manages to escape on Lily's boat, heading down the river toward Pilgrim's base. Far away, ties continue to unravel. Tilda wants to stay and fight for the refugees, but Odessa just wants to escape this life of constant war. The two realize they are heading in opposite directions, and their relationship ends right there. Tilda swallows the pain and returns to the widow's side, accepting the fight against Chow if it means a real chance at peace for her people. Minerva, meanwhile, has Castor locked up, but the boy refuses to spill any secrets about Pilgrim's powers. Moon suggests the practical method of ripping the hostage's head off, but the widow decides to heal his wounds and send him back. It's a purely political move. When she goes to Pilgrim's Island to negotiate, the cult leader demands Minerva bow to him. Anyone who knows the widow knows that was never going to happen. She coldly refuses to submit and warns Tilda she has a plan, banking entirely on the fact that everyone there underestimates her. On the boat, Sunny starts getting flashes of the past. He remembers having been on that deck as a child, surrounded by refugees. The problem is that the boat was given to Lily by the River King, the same crime boss who hates Sunny for crossing him years ago. True to her nature, Lily sells Sunny and Baji out to the River King's assassins. The clash on the deck is brutal, but Sunny handles the situation the usual way. Realizing she picked the losing side, Lily switches teams. Together, they defeat the assassins and take the River King hostage, using him as a direct guide into Pilgrim's territory. Castor's return doesn't bring relief to the camp. He tries to warn Nyx that maybe their leader is lying about certain important things, but MK jumps into the conversation, playing the blind watchdog and picking a fight. Pilgrim intervenes, but the dynamic of that family reaches a bizarre level. He sends Nix and MK away and stays alone with Castor. In a soft voice, Pilgrim comforts the boy who sees him as a father, showers him with affection, and then snaps his neck in one swift motion. Castor's dead weight drops to the floor, making it very clear that, in the new Azra, loyalty has a very short shelf life. Ignoring Lydia's warnings that the idea is basically a suicide mission, Minerva and Gaius remain focused on planning a direct strike against Baroness Chow, and the division within the sanctuary becomes glaringly obvious in the worst way possible, an internal coup. Led by Ren, Minerva's own guard dons gas masks and turns the tables on their leader. With Nathaniel Moon nowhere to be found and Lydia hiding in the stables, the mutineers pull off the unthinkable and capture the widow, tired of fighting a war they don't consider theirs. When Moon finally reaches the borders and finds his troops massacred, he quickly realizes the attack came from within and sets off to get reinforcements. Far from there, Sunny and the River King try to strike a tense deal, to say the least. The king hands over a map to Museum Island and suggests Sunny seek out the captain, the only other survivor of the massacre on the boat that haunts the protagonist's memories. But, true to his nature, the River King barely turns his back before ordering his goons to tip off a mysterious group about Sunny's location. The encounter with the captain brings heavy answers. Sunny discovers he was hunted by a group wearing black and red armor, marked with the same symbol he carved into the boat when he was a kid. What's more, he has a sister he has no memory of. Seeking the ship's logs to understand his past, Sunny returns to the River King's hideout, where the promised betrayal goes down. The armored mercenaries, known as the Black Lotus, spring an ambush. What they didn't count on was Baji's arrival. Together, the two wipe the floor with the attackers. To avoid leaving any loose ends this time, Sunny finally eliminates the River King once and for all. Baji even tries to convince his ex, Lily, to join them in the hunt for Pilgrim, but she prefers to stay and take control of the River Empire. Fair enough. Meanwhile, at the museum, the Azra fanatics hold Castor's funeral. The mood darkens when Cressida has a terrifying vision of Sunny's tally marks drawn in blood. When she tries to warn Pilgrim, he force chokes her in true Darth Vader style, making it clear that she is the one to blame for the boy's death. Nix also starts to distrust their leader, terrified by the mysterious marks she found on Castor's neck, needing to be comforted by the ever-problematic MK. At the sanctuary, the situation is resolved through pure strategy. Lydia pretends to negotiate with the rebels, but catches a hint from Minerva about taking the high road, code for a secret passage. She regroups with Moon and Tilda, who came to the rescue, and the three storm the place, crushing the coup with ease. Facing the firing squad, Ren doesn't ask for forgiveness. She only begs Minerva to be the leader she promised to be for the people. The arrows fly, the rebels fall, and Minerva stands in silence, haunted by the weight of her own power. The Master has a disturbing vision foretelling chaos, and it doesn't take long to see why. At the Azra Museum, MK is trying to teach Nix how to control her gift when he spots Sunny and Baji arriving with the new prisoners. The boy doesn't think twice. His eyes go completely black and he charges at Sunny, going full Sith mode and delivering a brutal beating that only ends because Pilgrim decides to step in before necks get snapped. As Sunny recovers, the grand secret is revealed. Cressida calls him Sanzo, and Pilgrim drops the bomb that the two of them are brothers, born in the lost city of Azra and chosen to lead. To prove his good intentions and his power, Pilgrim takes baby Henry and temporarily deactivates the darkness consuming him. It all feels like a miracle until the group finds the Meridian Chamber. Cressida warns them that the central machine will only work with a dual offering, Pilgrim's and Sunny's Azra compasses. Baji, who conveniently knows how to read the Azran language, starts snooping around and discovers the terrifying truth about the chamber. The last time it was activated, the world basically ended, and the Dark Ones were created. Pilgrim's plan isn't to save anyone, but rather to create a lethal army under his control. Baji tries to warn Sunny, but the protagonist's tunnel vision takes over. Desperate to cure his son, Sunny not only ignores the warning, but lets Baji get captured while trying to blow up the chamber. In parallel, war breaks out on the border. Nathaniel Moon enters absolute survival mode, worthy of John Wick. He loses his top hat, takes an arrow to the shoulder, but keeps slicing through Baroness Chow's clippers non-stop. When he is finally cornered, Lydia shows up on horseback and shoots an arrow through the attacker's eye, saving the regent just before passing out from her own wounds. Far from the open battlefield, Minerva, Tilda, and Gaius storm Chau's mansion, but the Baroness was expecting them. Archers surround Minerva, and the end seems inevitable. That is when the impossible happens. Time freezes. The arrows stop mid-air, and the master appears out of nowhere. In seconds, she wipes out Chau and all the archers. Right after, she taps Minerva's head with 2 fingers, knocking the widow out and suggesting her old gift might have been reactivated. Deep inside the Meridian Chamber, the fate of the world is sealed. Sunny and Pilgrim lock their compasses into place. The machine roars to life. Pilgrim takes Henry in his arms and cures the child for good. Sunny breathes a sigh of relief until he looks at his brother. When Pilgrim opens his eyes, they are pitch black. He didn't just siphon the sickness from the baby. He absorbed all his dark power. And once again, Baji was absolutely right. The action wastes no time, immediately exploding into a breathtaking showdown between the widow and the master. It's the kind of lethal choreography that makes you hold your breath and remember why no one in their right mind should ever cross Minerva. This adrenaline rush soon gives way to a much heavier atmosphere, the moment of truth. After so much mystery, the curtain is finally pulled back, and we understand the gears turning behind everything at stake in the Badlands. It's a flood of revelations about the true nature of the gift, the destructive purpose of the Meridian Chamber, the buried secrets of Azra, and Pilgrim's schemes. But the elephant in the room is undoubtedly the blood tie between Sunny and Pilgrim. Knowing the two are chosen brothers of Azra changes the whole board, but the vibe is anything but a family reunion. Cressida, always the fanatical devotee, makes it very clear she doesn't trust Sunny for a second, and to be fair, she has every right to be on her guard. Pilgrim tries to play the understanding leader, pulling his brother to his side. He demands that Sunny let go of his individualism and newfound freedom to serve his delusions of a greater good. Basically, Pilgrim wants Sunny to be the sword of his apocalyptic crusade, except Sunny has already spent years as Baron Quinn's pet weapon. He's fought armies, lost people he loved, and bled in the wasteland precisely to stop being a tool in the hands of tyrants. Going back to being a fanatic's pawn, even his own brothers, is out of the question. He flat out refuses the offer. For Pilgrim, compassion and family have a very clear limit: submission. Since Sunny refuses to bow his head, the retaliation is immediate. Their family connection doesn't save our protagonist. Instead, Sunny is exiled and sentenced to death, thrown back to square one in a scenario where his survival hangs by a thread. When it comes to Sunny, it seems the people closest to him are always the most dangerous.
My brother is dead.
While Sunny deals with the fallout of his rebellion, the widow decides it's time to face her own demons. She embarks on a spiritual journey, a sort of hallucinogenic trip, in a desperate attempt to regain her gift, and what goes on inside Minerva's head is worthy of a highly stylized nightmare. In this alternate reality, she takes on the identity of the Phoenix, a ruthless baroness dressed entirely in red, who rules the Badlands with an iron fist and a lot of blood. By her side, serving as her right hand, is a version of Gaius Chau, also decked out in a scarlet palette. As the Phoenix, the widow has full access to her former powers and uses all that strength to hunt down a mysterious rival known only as the Raven. The psychological plot twist hits fast. The Raven isn't just any enemy, she is the widow herself. This drives the narrative straight into one of the most insane and well-choreographed clashes in the entire story: Minerva versus Minerva. It's a deadly sword fight that plays out like intensive shock therapy. By crossing blades with her own copy, she finally manages to reconcile the light and darkness within her personality. Resolving internal conflicts through flying martial arts is definitely the Badlands way of doing things. In the real world, the tension in Pilgrim's camp remains high. Nyx begins to show the absurd control she has over her gift and, worse still, makes no effort to hide her suspicion of the leader's intentions. Showing any sign of rebellion in the middle of a cult is never a smart idea, especially when Cressida is always watching everything with that look of someone who has already planned your murder. Far away, trying to survive yet another death sentence, Sunny takes shelter in the ruins of an abandoned department store. The isolation and the weight of so many of life's beatings seem to be taking a toll on his sanity. Just like Tom Hanks chatting with a volleyball in Castaway, Sunny starts conversing with the plastic mannequins in the place. The guy is clearly at his breaking point. The one who ends up crashing this bizarre refuge is Nyx herself. She tracks Sunny down, and the two strike a dangerous, completely secret alliance behind Pilgrim's back. Nyx will have to tread very carefully, because trying to play both sides with a superpowered lunatic in charge is asking to be turned to ashes. To top off the madness, Baji shows up to do what he does best, be the cruel voice of reason. He drops some harsh truths on the widow and Lydia, delivering that reality check drenched in dark humor that is his trademark. Nix finally decides which side she's on and jumps off the fence straight onto Sunny's team. Together, they set off on a mission to track down Ankara, the old witch who holds a good chunk of the Badlands secrets. But the road takes its toll, and Nix ends up clashing with MK. The kid is simply unrecognizable. Anyone who remembers that innocent, scared boy from the beginning of the story now sees someone completely swallowed by rage and dark power. He has practically embraced his own dark side of the Force, never looking back. Meanwhile, the blood politics between the Barons remain relentless. Tilda and Gaius sneak into the Chow family fortress, and the tension culminates in a brutal moment when Tilda assassinates Gaius's mother. The fact that he allows and aids the invasion shows exactly where his loyalty lies. Gaius is no longer just the exiled heir or the widow's love interest. He's a guy willing to cut his own flesh and blood to ensure the old guard falls once and for all. Speaking of the widow, Minerva faces her own insane survival marathon. It all starts with the Master forcing a confrontation between her and Baji. The intention is for it to be a kind of violent therapy session, a reckoning for the past they shared. There's even a nostalgic charm in seeing the two former partners trading punches again. But the real trial by fire happens shortly after. In the middle of a packed post-apocalyptic market, Sunny and Minerva come face to face, and the air grows thick.
Sunny, wait. I promise I'm not your enemy.
Sunny still carries the weight of Vale's death and wants the widow to pay with her life. She, on the other hand, needs him to trust her if they want any chance of taking down Pilgrim. What follows is an absolute brawl, destroying stalls and spreading panic among those just trying to buy supplies. The big difference here is Minerva's stance. Instead of fighting to kill, she absorbs Sunny's fury, physically proving she has learned to tame her own darkness. She no longer wants to rule through cruelty. It's enough for Sunny to realize that killing her now would be a massive strategic mistake. He swallows his hatred, lowers his sword, and accepts the truce. Friendship is out of the question, but the alliance is forged. Pilgrim decides it's time to tear things out by the root and knocks right on the Master's door. He invades her territory with a messianic speech, promising to emancipate the abbots from the monastery's control. To be fair, the Master kept everyone in line with needles and induced comas, which isn't the most ethical method in the world. The problem is that the freedom offered by Pilgrim demands total submission to Azra, which means kneeling to him. The two collide in a titanic battle, a clash of ideologies settled with fists that could completely shift the balance of the Badlands. Far away, the most dysfunctional road trip of the season is underway. Sunny, Baji, Minerva, Nix, and a completely unconscious Ankara share the same vehicle, looking like a version of Little Miss Sunshine, only with katanas and severe trauma. To break the heavy silence, Baji starts rambling about the bizarre animals he hasn't had the chance to eat yet, including a falcon. It's Baji's classic twisted comic relief, working perfectly before the chaos hits. When Ankara finally wakes up, the jokes end. The old witch starts handing over the missing pieces to the puzzle, revealing the secrets of the Black Lotus, the true origin of Azra, and how she herself is to blame for a large part of this mess. Still on the topic of responsibility, Gaius and Tilda discuss how his privilege of growing up in royalty is no excuse to ignore his own bloodline's atrocities. His perspective is quickly tested, as his sister, Baroness Julia Chow, has crossed every line. She captures Tilda and Gaius himself, dragging them to the Iron Fan, a psychedelic circus of sadism that looks like a mix of a nightclub and an 80s horror movie. Juliet begins torturing them mercilessly. Obviously, Minerva wasn't going to let that slide. The widow crashes the circus of horrors, ready to exorcise the demons Chow has planted in her life since childhood. The massive, bizarre set serves as the stage for an epic fight. Minerva cuts through the defenses, faces her old tormentor, and ends the trauma in the most absolute way possible, by severing Baroness Chow's head. She walks away through the carnage, fully embracing her role as the undisputed leader. However, the Badlands hate happy endings. In the midst of this whirlwind, Baji is caught off guard and takes a brutal stab wound straight to the stomach. He collapses, losing blood fast, leaving a terrible lingering doubt as to whether this really is the end of the line for him. Magnus of the Black Lotus hands Cannon, Sunny's newly discovered long-lost sister, an impossible challenge. The goal? To force the activation of the dark powers lying dormant within the protagonist. To make sure the urgency is felt, Magnus places a giant hourglass on the table, which he casually calls a little souvenir from Azra, flips the object, and calmly warns her that she has until the last grain of sand drops to complete the mission. With that done, he simply walks out of the room, leaving Kanan with a half-hour deadline and the responsibility of flipping her brother's dark mode switch. As the clock ticks down, the story takes a deep dive into Sonny's mind and memories. If there was any doubt about where he came from or what happened in his past, the pieces start falling into place. Through intense flashbacks and heavy dialogue, the secrets surrounding the mythical city of Azra and the purposes of the Black Lotus are finally unearthed. Kanan almost takes on the role of that RPG character who dumps the entire lore in your lap all at once. It's a flood of revelations, but it definitively resolves the ex-Clipper's identity crisis. Meanwhile, Baji's fate is resolved. After ending up with a blade through his stomach, it seemed like the end of the line for the Badlands' most charismatic fighter. But the witch Ankara steps in to turn the tables. Using her magic, she transfers her own life force to heal his lethal wound. Ankara sacrifices herself so Baji can keep breathing. Yes, it's a very convenient mystical shortcut, but in a universe of martial arts and supernatural gifts, it's best to accept the miracle and move on. On a much more melancholic note, we witness the final moments of the Master, whose true name is Ada. The woman who molded the most dangerous minds in the region now reaches her absolute limit. The widow, in a rare moment of softness, helps guide her former mentor using those classic paper origami birds, creating a comforting vision that leads the Master back to her childhood home. It's a visually beautiful transition for a world that usually solves everything by spilling blood on the ground. Before finally departing, the Master imparts one last, heavy piece of advice to Minerva. She says the ultimate goal shouldn't be to lead, but to ensure the world no longer needs masters. It's a powerful reflection that completely redefines the widow's moral compass and anchors the weight of everything at stake in this final stretch. The war reaches a boiling point, and the blind devotion of Cressida and Pilgrim only adds fuel to the fire. The High Priestess acts with such unshakable conviction that it makes you understand exactly why this kind of figure attracts so many followers. They don't think they are the villains. They are absolutely certain they are the destined saviors of the Badlands, and that is exactly what makes them so lethal. But the real shock happens inside a fighting cage. Lydia, the woman who survived Quinn's cruelty, desert exiles, conspiracies, and barren wars, finally meets her match in a brutal, tight fight against Cressida. The priestess gets the upper hand, landing a strike that seals the former Baroness's fate. The weight of the scene triples when Nathaniel Moon, the swordsman who finally seemed to have found a reason to live in peace with Lydia, enters the room just in time to find her bleeding on the dirt floor. The farewell cuts deeper than any blade. With her dying breath, Lydia doesn't waste her energy demanding vengeance against Cressida. Instead, she looks into Moon's eyes and begs him to throw his sword into the ocean. She wants him to run away, to leave it all behind and find some real peace, confessing her love for him before closing her eyes for good. It's a devastating end for the ultimate survivor of the series. Far from this morning, Sonny and Baji continue crossing the territory, following Kanan's directions to a place called Dragon's Tooth. The promise is that there, Sonny's gift will finally be unlocked. Baji, however, isn't buying it so easily. The ex-monk doesn't trust the newcomer, making it clear that this sister showed up at a very convenient time with answers that are a little too easy. This leads to a reality check in the middle of their journey. Baji points the finger and lists Sonny's terrible track record of trust. Quinn, Pilgrim, and even MK. He tells him to his face that our protagonist keeps stumbling blindly from one drama to the next without even understanding what he's hunting. Cornered by the truth, Sonny leans on the only answer that still drives him. He's doing all of this for his son, Henry. The boy is the only thing keeping him from throwing in the towel. While this unsolicited roadside group therapy unfolds, all hell breaks loose at the widow's fortress. Pilgrim, marching with his loyal army of Dark Ones, launches a massive, merciless assault against Minerva's defenses. The invasion is sheer chaos, but the major turning point happens when MK ends up suffering severe injuries in the midst of the carnage. If Pilgrim was already a destructive machine acting in the name of a prophecy, seeing his protege near death shatters whatever moral breaks he had left. From here on out, the retaliation isn't just about faith anymore, it's personal.
Vengeance!
If there was any doubt that Pilgrim is the biggest threat in the Badlands, he makes sure to eliminate it in a very graphic way. Without warning, he rips Nyx's head off and throws her body down the stairs. It's a clear message that any hope for redemption is long gone, and deep down, he rules with the same tyranny and cold-bloodedness as any other Baron. While Pilgrim spends his time explaining his fanatical vision of Azra, MK stays in his corner, just licking his wounds from the last battle and waiting for his moment to strike. But Pilgrim's fanaticism starts to fracture his own inner circle. Cressida has a brutal vision of herself with a broken neck, which is more than enough incentive to make her start questioning where this blind loyalty will lead. The confirmation comes when Canon, Sunny's sister, shows up to confront the duo. She tries to open Cressida's eyes, warning her that Pilgrim's path is built on genocide and that the famous Meridian Chamber is nothing but a laboratory created to manufacture evil, not a sacred temple. Pilgrim, offended by the blasphemy, drags Canon into a duel. Using the power of one of the monoliths, he completely drains her dark gift. As Pilgrim's core fragments, the good guys try to band together. Sunny, Baji, and Baby Henry finally reunite with the Widow and her group. Sunny and Minerva decide to swallow their bloody past and focus on the common enemy. In the middle of this last-minute alliance, the Widow drops a bombshell. She is pregnant with Gaius's child. The group's reaction is divided, but Nathaniel Moon is completely cold about the situation and doesn't think it's a good idea to go through with it. It might seem like cruelty driven by the pain of recently losing Lydia, but Moon has a point. Raising a baby in a post-apocalyptic world ruled by warlords and ninja assassins isn't exactly the ideal setting for parenthood. The time for reflection, however, is zero. Sunny, Baji, Gaius, and Canon set out to try and recruit the Black Lotus's help against Pilgrim. The mission spirals out of control, and Canon, overcome by despair, ends up killing Magnus. Stripped of her own gift and with the chamber inactive, she delivers the bad news. There is no more time. The final war is at their doorstep. When the inevitable final clash erupts, diplomacy goes out the window. The battlefield turns into a chaotic spectacle of martial arts, explosions, and flying bodies, with each clan pushing all their chips to the center of the table. In the midst of this chaos, MK crosses the last line he had left. He lunges and drives his sword into Tilda's chest right in front of the Widow, leaving the girl in a coma. If his idea was to destabilize Minerva, it worked all too well. The Widow finally activates her dark eyes and goes into absolute berserker mode, focusing all her bloodlust on MK, and handing him the violent end he spent the entire season looking for. On the other side of the battlefield, loyalty has its limits. Cressida realizes the dream of Azra is crumbling, and simply decides she isn't going down with the ship. She steals a motorboat and speeds away, leaving Nathaniel Moon stranded on the shoreline, screaming for a vengeance he isn't going to get. The great threat, however, finally falls. Pilgrim is killed, putting a permanent end to his twisted crusade and lethal obsession with Azra. But victory demands the ultimate sacrifice. Sunny dies by the sword in the exact same way he lived. Death, however, isn't a brick wall for everyone. Sunny's spirit awakens in that peculiar limbo between life and death, where the Master is already waiting for him. She drops the biggest revelation of all. Sunny's dark gift was finally activated the exact second he died. This gives him a ticket back to the land of the living and a chance to see Henry again. But the Master leaves a grim warning. The Badlands he knows are going to change, because a force far more dangerous than any human has been unearthed. His journey is just beginning. The Master's warning materializes in the muddy ruins of the Meridian Chamber. Eli, wandering through the destroyed site after the great battle, falls to his knees and begins frantically digging through the dirt. What he pulls out isn't a mystical artifact or an energy crystal, it's a firearm. And as Indiana Jones made very clear decades ago, it doesn't matter how good you are with a sword. A gun completely changes the rules of the game.